Bad, y'all. We got cut off last time. We kind of did a little belly flop for real. You know what I'm saying? And fell into some other shit. But really, not even some other shit, you know. We're talking about basically, we were talking about the Algonquin conquest of the Mediterranean. And one of my highlight civilizations of this conquest would have to be the Minoans. You cannot talk about these people without talking about the Minoans or the Etruscans coming out of Crete. And then you also have you talk about Queen Scotia. She's a descendant of these people who would be Queen Scotia, who left Egypt and settled Scotland and founded the race of little leprechaun kind of like people, is so you want to call them. But let's get into this. Let's get into it, Dad. This is also the ivory female figures. Let's go back there. Only in the years necessary, archaeological data has been available, which enables students of ancient civilizations to draw some degree of confidence where Crete was the birthplace of the Aegean civilization, which radiates to pre-Hellenistic times throughout Europe. Although it has been demonstrated that the Crete leaven was 11 was in existence, and the work at the dawn of the Egyptian dynastic age, which the Sumerians, were achieving their earliest triumphs to the trio Euphratean Valley. We are still confronted with the problem of remote origin. The earliest settlers in Crete had, as their artifacts demonstrated, already obtained a comparatively high degree of Neolithic culture. Houses were built of stone as well as wattles, dades with clay, and sea trades were in existence for obsidian was imported from Milos. And Milos, man, you always gotta talk about Milos. Milos is like they brother culture over there, like brother sister culture. Milos had some old extra black ass looking motherfuckers over there too. You always see them little uh, vases with the wrestling, motherfuckers wrestling all on each other and shit, humping on each other. It's extra. It's extra out, I promise you. It's boys on boys, girls on girls. It's everything cracking on. Same shit when you look at the Moche pottery, we get right back into that. So we talking about that intercontinental, you know what I'm saying, connection of freaky assness. That's what I would call it. Same shit people can't stand today. Extra flashy, extra freaky. Let's keep going, man. Sea trade existence for obsidian. This section of the community had adopted agriculture and modern life. The earliest settlement of the people of at Knossos had been assigned about 10,000 BC. The approximate dating, which is based, is evidence of the archaeological strata. But this earliest trace of an artistic culture in Europe belongs to the more remote age. Although the vast periods of the Neolithic and Late Stone Age, there are existing savage communities, just as there had been to be the cases of the present day of the various parts of the world, those also, as in Crete and Egypt and Babylonia, referred to as aggressive peoples who were already heirs of that age. The ages of the Europe passed through stages of the climatic oscillations of such pronounced character of the remains of mankind are found in the strata yielding uh, alternately tropical temperature and Arctic flora and fauna. This period is questioned the the linguists in the history of the civilization and the archaeological Paleolithic or early Stone Age towards its close, for which the minimum date is 20,000 BC. There is an existing in Europe of at least two people whose culture is referred to as the Argarian and the Magdalene. I hope I'm saying that right, but y'all, yeah, I see. We're talking about traditions of the Paleolithic associated with Europeans or early modern humans. So I guess that means cave people. Up here, Paleolithic in Western Europe, named this type of Magdalene, or the rock shelter located in the Tersac of France. Okay, so these would be your more civilized people. This is the Moors. As you can see, this would be all Moorish territory. Etruscan, Black, Crete, Algonquin, Sea people, Egyptian, Phoenician, Chaldean, star reading, boat people. You get what I'm saying. People with many names. Original Jews, man. The Xeon linked to the Paleolithic, which is the Neolithic age, and the continuing of culture from the earliest times is now generally regarded as an established fact that the story of the Cretan civilization may constitute, as been said, the first chapter of European history, but the introduction is derived from the Paleolithic age before and during the fourth glacial epoch, and it suggests that the writers like Angelo Mosso have expressed the belief of the Neolithic and the Cretan origin of the Argan and the Magdalene art, but the geologists have established beyond a shadow of a doubt that the civilization of which the art is eloquently expression must assign to the later part of the Pleistocene period, which renders Rome through the valleys of France. Those ancient Paleolithic hunters were skilled artists and carvers of bone and ivory, and painted and engraved on caves and roofs and figures of animals and realism and freedom, and were never surpassed in Greece. You feel me? So these motherfuckers with some old artists, music, they're your strings when you always say your strings are made in Africa, but you know, if I want to keep it real, these are the first most like eloquent. I don't know, man. We don't have to get in that one early. Don't let me say that, man. Let me retract that statement. But we don't keep it pushing. Because Africa might be home to the strings, man. We might give Africa their credit. But as you can see, when we was reading the Algonquin conquest, you know, they got pushed down to the west coast of Africa, you know, also starting up on the left side. So you always hear about, uh, where's that tribe? You got your Igbo, and I can't remember them other people who will be down there, man. I'm gonna have to find a little video of them talking about how his people got pushed down into the west side, the west coast of Africa, out of Saudi Arabia. I've seen a couple of tribes out of what we can now call West Africa saying that they came from the East Africa, or what you would say is the Middle East now. You know, so let's just keep it. Let's grab this little drink or whatever. Go blunt and blank that. You ever get tired of rolling up, my nigga? Never. You know what I'm saying? It's the culture. It says they also call Barbie figurines that were most worthy of comparison with the similar artistic products of Egypt, and not always their disadvantage. The resemblance, white morsel between the most ancient female figures of France and the Neolithic figures of Crete and Egypt are very striking. Among the rock pictures of women, he sees the girdle and the Egyptian mode of hairdressing described as the Paleolithic paintings. He writes the women's hair flow down upon their shoulders like that of the Minoan women. The bosom is uncovered and the breast much developed. The triangular shape of the heads indicate a hood or a kind of mitri, two women, or a mitri, I think that's like a crown. Okay, yeah, no fucking them weird ass little puffy head fairs that you see when you how can I explain it, man? These niggas got on a sultan headdress. So when you talking about who is that? I don't want to get the name wrong, but we talking about the other side of the Holy Roman Empire, the the motherfucking like Egyptian side of it. I might have to get into that. You got the Sultan like Arab side of the Holy Roman Empire that got pushed out. Let's just check it out because I want to see this shit. The turban worn by the high priest and much larger than the headdress covering of the priest, and was wound so that it would be formed on a broad, flat top turban resembling a blossom of a flower. The head covered of the priest was different, being wound so that it formed a cone-shaped turban called the mig migbahat. I don't know what the. You see niggas, like I said, run around dressed like this, man. Just like niggas gonna sell you some incense, man. Steal something from me. No, I'm just playing, man. Let me quit. We'll get back into that though. That's pretty cool. McBride, and it's made of fine linen and like the holy garments, it would be made by gifted artists and filled with the spirits of wisdom. Rashi writes that the high priest is identical to the turbans of other priests. The priestly crowns, the blossom flower, was attached to the turbans by means of two sets of blue cords, one going over the top of the head and the other around the sides of the head, the level of the ears. Okay, so they kept that shit strapped down. Cause I didn't understand how it stayed on your head. Ain't that something? Mm-hmm. Since according to the Talmud, the wearing of the turban atoned for the sins and haughtiness on the part of the children of Israel. I don't get all into that, whatever with niggas. You know what I'm saying? If that's you, you know what I'm saying? Rock with it. If that resonates, let it shake. But, let's get back to this, man. Triangular shape, okay, symmetry. Bracelet upon the arm near the elbows and very slender waist with the body shaped like an hourglass. So these are some shapely, curvy women. He also comments on another instance that the skirts, which have also the characteristics of Crete, comparison between the Cretan frescoes. I love these pictures. Thought I should try to show you the white ones first. You get where the mixing happened. So that's what I call it, the home of miscegenation, the home of the mixing, where they said they civilized. You know that culture happened in the beginning, where they began to covet, the Moors began to covet the white women, love them, make all them mixed babies like your boy Alexander the Great, Mr. Bantu Knots himself. This is where this starts, man. Your bambinos. Do you know about anything about Medici? Medici, he comes from these people. Ancient bloodline of the Italians. You see some bad motherfuckers when it came to riding and bull riding. So now you get why they had a running of the bull fighting, knowing bull leaping. Okay. Skip your boy way down here. Okay. Fresco of paleolithic carvings in Spain and France and likewise have been made at B. Borelli, Don Juan, Abbey, Society of Jesus. So know who you fucking with. I didn't even know it was his whole name. You see how I left off. We ain't about shit. Back on topic. Damn shit all over the place. We ain't about to read everybody's names. I know they feel good, but you see them. Yeah, they're talking about the Grimaldi. They says Since the writing of the book, similar figures made the ivory-hooded female have been found as far east as uh, Malta, Siberia. See this photo above. These figures can be traced to the migration of the first Europeans, the Grimaldi man. You know, they said the Grimaldi man are very, very dark skinned, look kind of crazy looking motherfuckers. Like, if I do say so myself, this shit look wild. The Minoan snake goddess. You can see she got the Tower of Babel on her head. You feel very Egyptian. As y'all know, we've seen her a couple times as I've been reading. We even seen her with animal feet, crazy shit like that. She had to whiten her up. It says, as with the ancients over the time, the Minoans progressed to the point where they became the master builders. One of the greatest achievements was the aqueducts that brought the fresh water from the mountains in the capital of Knossos. So that's like time. Ain't that the word time? Like Gnosis. You see the Gnosis kind of look like uh, Machu Picchu, Tulum. Just many miles, these aqueducts supply water from some of the world's first flush toilets, as well as other uses. At the peak of Minoan civilization, paved roads and uh, multi multi-story townhouses where prominent archaeological evidence suggests that the Minoan society was remarkably peaceful. Their towns had no fortification. So, that, yeah, when you hear about that, when I read it, I was trying to think of what. It's so hard for me to think of what city that is in Peru. I didn't want to just get it wrong, man. But I'm definitely talking about Peru. And they got one of the best they say they got cities that are fortified and some cities that were built without no war. Only civilizations to do it. The Solid Islands of the Salidic culture developed on parallel lines of the early Minoans thanks to obsidian from Milos, marble from many islands and the local sources of gold and silver and copper. And Cycladic islanders rapidly became prosperous, as in Crete in the early Bronze Age emerged without incident. In mild Bronze Age, the early Cycladic. When we talk about the Bronze Age, anytime you hear that Bronze Age shit, they talking about the bronze that came from the Michigan mines, as we just went over earlier. So we all there with it. You feel me? Just keep up. You feel me? I know this shit sound weird. I know it sound ass backwards. I know it sounding like how would a nigga come out of America and do all this shit, but I'm telling you, man, the story been told to us in a weird way. So we untangling this. We you know what I'm saying? We combing all the naps out, all the kinks out. We gonna get it straight. You know what I'm saying? Not that that's beautiful, but we saying, man, we gonna present ourselves as at our best today. You feel me? We can't keep fucking this story up for the next generations. We doing this for the babies. You know what I'm saying? If we can't do nothing right, we gotta at least hand them the correct story so that they can step right. You feel me? One of these days we're gonna have to get into some real y'all know I do genealogy. Y'all seen my past pages, you feel me? But we'll have to get back into the genealogy, get back into them land grants. You feel me? I'm trying to do a little web series where we gonna go out. I'm gonna figure out how I'm gonna get this land back, man. We gonna win, lose, or draw. Y'all gonna see it all. You feel me? So it's gonna be a bumpy ride. So I want y'all to buckle up with me. You feel me? Be in a backseat strap. You feel me? Y'all see anybody coming up? Let me know. You feel me? If you can help me, let me know. You feel me? If you know anything about land patents, land grants. You feel me? Uh, Pre-colonial. You know what I'm saying? Colonial, you know what I'm saying, situations like that, let me know. You feel me? We can tap in, we can get this shit done. Maybe we can do it all together. You know what I'm saying? So let's get back into this Bronze Age shit. So the Bronze Age merged without incident into the Middle Bronze Age. The early Cycladic period is a celebration principally for its statues and vases carved of brilliant, coarse, crystallized marble of these islands. These statues, mostly of goddesses, are among the finest products of the Greek Bronze Age. They owe their charm and extreme simplifications of bodily form. The typical Cycladic idol is a naked female lying on her back and her arms crossed over her breast. The figures vary in size, a few inches to the most, that is 6 feet in inches. You ever get beat on a bag, man? You gotta smoke that shit. That shit hurt. On the set, that shit hurt, man. I'm just keep it a buck with you, man. Nigga been up and down on this shit. You feel me? TKL's been up, but them losses where you gotta suck it up. You feel me? Them motherfuckers hurt. Them hurt. Do you internally bleed on your heart? Make it hard to trust niggas. But it is what it is. You live your life. Get head up, keep trucking. We all got problems. Okay. It's a weird little statue. And as we stare at it, I don't know if that's a snake busting out boy chest. And I think it's the snake or the Ouroboros eating its own tail. And it might be the representation of a heart. That's what I'm going to assume it is. Or just a man feeding a snake its own tail. I, don't ask me. You leave me out of it. I ain't got nothing to do with that. But it says this is from the Aegean area, 4000 BC. You feel me? We're going to slide up the fat back right here, Big Mama. The mother goddess. You feel me? Auntie Suyu, Auntie Suyu. I think it's Auntie, because Auntie's the mother of the moon. The one you travel by at night, the one to guide you, the light that keeps you alive. The great mother. There's nothing wrong with the moon. Don't let them tell you that the moon is evil. You feel me? I heard, you know, my girl put me on some game the other day that motherfuckers is putting that out there. That, you know, that you should be, you know, as a man. You know, we move by the sun, you know, we move by daylight. You're supposed to move in the light. But as a woman, you know, they do a lot of their thinking, a lot of things happen to them underneath the moonlight. And as you know what I'm saying, a lot of things change when the sun go down with these mother goddesses. But, you know, another story for another time, you know. Um, but you know, honor the woman, man. Keep her close. Keep her safe. Keep her loved. Keep your house. You know what I'm saying? Happy wife, happy life. You might live a little longer. But it says mainland Greek probably received some of the Bronze Age settlers from the Cydiac. Both two cultures soon diverged. Prosperous eras arose in 2500 BC and lasted until the 2200s. Cultures was overshadowed by pottery and metalwork and agriculture among the early arts. During the Middle Cydiac period, the Cydiac suffered a uh, a diminution of prosperity and seem to have become politically subordinate to the Crete. Two waves of people seem to have decreed on the Greek mainland, one about 22 BC and one about 2000 BC. Two destroyed much and for long contributed to little of Greek's artistic history. So what we talking about here was the invasion. They talking about the Huns of your Hunnic dynasties. This is the lightening up. So as you start, like as I told you, the big mix, you feel me? As you see Alexander the Great, as we're going to get into, Alexander the Great did some more extra shit. He's funking with him and them, and you know what I'm saying? The niggas up the block, you know what I'm saying? A couple niggas got shot, you know what I'm saying? Over this and that, you feel me? So he come back with his homies, and they strap. They tell these other niggas, you feel me, don't ever pass this wall again. You feel me? So they put up a wall on these people they call Gog and Magog. They ain't let these niggas back out the spot for real. You feel me? So whenever Gog and Magog got back loose, and they came back, as you would say, west, after all that persecution and all that, because if you know anything about the Moors or the Moorish torture chambers, you feel me? It's terrible. You feel me? Like when you know about early European history or what the Gog and Magog people went through underneath the persecution of the Moors or the Minoans or these Algonquins or these extra smart ass niggas. Whenever they got free, they unleashed holy hell on the world. You feel me? So nobody can really be. You could be mad at them. We could blame the people of less melanin for whooping your ass if you want to. But to me, I always see it as karma. You know what I mean? Because when you read these books, you gotta hold that. You gotta hold that. If you want to be the greatest civilization to ever do it, you always gotta be the. You also have to be the greatest civilization ever failed. And that's real. You know what I'm saying? So you want to give our brothers and sisters of less melanin they credit. Because when they got their chance, you know, after all that fighting we did amongst each other and left each other as weak as we did, they came together. They came together. So you're going to always have to give them a little bit of credit of organization, you feel me, and ego, being able to check your ego. Because they didn't have one because of the spot they came from. The one ideal is never going back. But that's a story that's not really needed to be like made to seem like it's separation now, you feel me? Because, you know, as you see in my family line, you know what I'm saying, we've been different. So it ain't like I can sit up here and act like I'm some pure bloodline, this or that. You feel me? My family got all our dirt, and I laid it on the table for y'all. But we gonna keep it pushing. You feel me? We got that rolled up. That was just a slight little bitch fast from B because I was rolling my little blunt or whatever. But we live with it. Wait, get the end right. All right, sparking like Wheezy up. Shout out to Warren, man. Shout out to the 330, man. Warren, Ohio. What's up with it? Uh, so you see the two waves, you know what I'm saying? They was calling these your core wear people, or your I cannot remember what they was calling these motherfuckers, man. But they was coming basically like your Ptolemaic dynasty, man. It was your core wear. I cannot remember what that's called. But it's called the core wear dynasty. These motherfuckers ain't do nothing but rape and pillage and name change. Well, they ain't even name change. These niggas wasn't even clever enough to do that. They just started. Our favorite word of the day is going to be usurp. They usurp. Shout out to my man, Medicine Man. You know what I'm saying? If you ever on Instagram, check out Medicine Man, Children of the Corn. These documentaries, European history. You know what I'm saying? It's one of the big homies, you know what I'm saying? Don't think that I'm just some super brainiac nigga. Like, I ain't never learned from nobody. As you see these little names I drop here and there, man, get with them. You know what I'm saying? This is where you gonna learn something, man. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to all the real ones. Y'all know where it's at, man. Check my subscribes. You know what I'm saying? They all in there. So, we back on it. You know what I'm saying? Let's keep it pushing. Cyprus was the mythological birthplace of Aphrodite and Adonis, and the home of King Cyprinus and Ticuca, and they beat my ass with these names. Uh, Familion, Familion, Familion. Y'all with it, bro. I ain't about to keep on playing with y'all. The earliest confirmed site of human activity is Acteriumos, situated on the south coast, indicated with the hunter-gatherers were active in the island around 10,000 BC, with the settled villages and communities dating from 8200 BC, and the arrival of the first human correlates with the extinction of the dwarf hippos and the dwarf elephants. Y'all know we gonna get into that. If you're a real researcher, you see what I'm doing, man. Get your game up, man. Stay with me, man. You learn the tricks of the trade, man. You be right with me, man. You're not gonna be behind, man. Like just keep up. You know what I'm saying? On the south coast, and you know what I'm saying? It was 1800 distinction of Dorothy and that myth, Cyrus. Look at this little brother here, man. Ain't that something? Look, we good here. Oh, heavy finger ass. You feel me? Okay. Water wells discovered in the archaeologists discovered by the archaeologists in the western Cyprus are believed to be among the oldest in the world, dated back to 9,000 and 10,500 years old. They are said to demonstrate the sophistication of the early settlers, and their heightened appreciation for the environment remains of an 8-month-old cat were discovered buried with a human owner at the separate Neolithic site of Cyprus. The grave, estimated to be 9,500 years old, predating the ancient Egypt civilization and pushing back to the earliest known feline-human association significantly. So you see niggas was already. Let's go to. I'm just gonna drop this real quick. Well, why would I do that? Boom, we can go back in here. We don't have to even do all that. Queen Mu and the Egyptian Sphinx. Greatest books you ever read. If you need it, tap into it. You feel me? This right here. Augustus Leipzig. Shout out to Kerry Mayo. You know what I'm saying? 432 to drop. You know what I'm saying? 432. Some of the realest researchers over there, they do their thing. You know what I'm saying? I'm not sure if this is. That's old Augustus right there. I'll be having to rebuild my book collection. Sometimes I'll be having books downloaded 4 and 5 times, bro, because I need it for further research, but I've been, you know what I'm saying, embedded 4 or 5 memory cards. Anybody who ever done this shit, boy, they know what I'm talking about, man. You be fucking up some memory. As you see my man down here on the Cypress jug with the long head, Egyptian style. Long, elongated skulls. If you know anything about the Toltecs and the elongated skulls and the flatboarding of the Natchez and the Moche, them big forehead niggas. You know them niggas. Them big forehead niggas. Them big forehead niggas did it. So there are several fluxes of population and settlements as well as newcomers to the island during the Neolithic age, according to the earthquakes caused by the fractures that fell around 3,800 BC. Several waves of incoming people followed, including some from Asia Minor, which strengthened the metalwork and the crafts of the island. Although this finds the time rare to those to find a high quality later, the Bronze Age heralded the arrival of a more uh, Anatolians, which came to the island around 2400 BC in the early Sephardic, cryptic, early cryptos. I don't know what that is. We don't find out what that word is. It's a people. It's some type of it's Greek. Okay. Pottery has survived 2 scientific studies among many, which prove that white people are not native to Europe. So wow, the Sephardic DNA is not native to Europe. Come back to that. It says known by all civilized nations thousands of years ago as today of the English. Thus we meet in Japan, the islands of Pacific, Hindustan, Asia Minor, Egypt, Greece, Equatorial Africa, North and South America, as well as the countries known as Central America, which is those the times composed the Maya Empire. The seat of the government resides the ruler of the peninsula of the Yucatan. Whenever found, the name Maya is synonym with the power and the wisdom and learning, with the existence of the Western continent was no more a mystery to the inhabitants of the country bordering on the Mediterranean than those whose shores are bathed by the waves of the Indian Ocean. Valmiki is a beautiful epic of the Ramayana, says in the times of the remote that the sun has not yet risen above the horizon, that the Mayas, great navigators, terrible warriors, learned architects, conquered the southern parts of Indo-Chinese peninsula and established themselves there. In these classic authors, Greek and Latin, and the frequent mention of the great Saturnian continent distant many thousands of stratia and stratia from the pillars of Hercules. You know, we went over the pillars of Hercules and how your man's Atlas, you know, was handed the burdens of the world, big black hat. You feel me? Got handed the burdens of the world. We go back into them Greek, Minoan, and all them, you know, ancient histories of the gods of America. You know what I'm saying? The people of America turned into gods. You know what I'm saying? So let's keep moving. You know what I'm saying? Towards the setting of the sun. Uh, Plutarch, in his Life of Solon, says that when the famed Greek legislator visited Egypt 600 years before the Christian era, Sansich, the priest of Sassis, and Xenophasis, a priest of Heliopolis, told him 9,000 years since the relation of the Egyptians was the inhabitants of the land of the west had interrupted because the mud had made it impossible after the destruction of Atlantis by earthquakes. This same author again in his work De Facie Orbe Lunae, we're gonna get all of these. We're gonna try that another time in a real book. For some reason, they not letting me highlight right. Y'all see what's happening. So we're gonna get back to reading. Atlantis, the name of the word de facto orbe is let's see if they at least let us get that. No time for this shit. Okay, we got it. Damn. Shit freezing my shit up. Y'all see if that shit done? You try to do a little too much. Learned concerning them of the strangers he had met at Carthage returning from the transatlantic countries. The western continent was visited by the Carthaginians a few years before the inhabitants of Plato's Atlantis. The portraits of the men with long beards and the Phoenician features discovered by the men in 1875 sculpted on the columns of Ante of the castles of Chichens bear the witness. And the pictures that we did in video one, where those little men were holding up the walls, that's the pictures they talking about. It was reading over the dark skinned men that, supposedly attacked in the boats and took them off in stripes. You know what it was. You know what we're talking about. So, bear witness. Diodorus Silius attributes the discovery of the western continents to the Phoenicians and describes it as a country where the landscape is varied by a very lofty mountains, and the temperature is always soft and equable. Procopius, alluding to it, says it is several thousand stradius from Ogivia. We don't get into that another time. We're gonna keep reading. I'm sorry, y'all. Y'all see, you know what I'm saying? I be digging. I be digging with y'all live, you feel me? So then close the whole sea into a multitude of rivers descending from the highlands discharge their waters. Theopompus, Quico, speaking of a magnitude, says, comprehended with it our world, it be small islands of Secrio mentioned It makes us of nearly the same world. Omnius, Idris, Terra, Quae, Clutos, Vobius, Parva, Coquatum, Este, and Silua. Aristotle, in his work De Memorabilia Acoustolitico, giving an account of it, represents it as a very large and fertile country, very watered by an abundant streams, and he refers to the decree enacted by the Senate of Carthage towards the year 509, intended to stem the current immigration and the had towards the western lands, and that they feared it might prove detrimental to the prosperity of their city, that the belief of the former existence of the extensive lands in the middle of the Atlantic and their submergence in the conquer seismic conveyance existed among the scientists even far down as the 5th century era of the Christian era. Procurus, one of the greatest scholars of antiquity, who during the 35th year was at the land of Neo-Platonic school of Athens and was learned in the science known in the day of his contemporaries of Plato, and Timaeus says that the famous Atlantis existed no longer, but we can find hardly the doubt that it did once, for Mercurius, who wrote a history of the Ethiopian affairs, says that such in a so great island once existed, and that the evidence of who composed history relative to the external seas, and that they relate that the time that there were 7 islands in the Atlantic Sea sacred uh, to Protein. I don't know who that. Okay, anytime you're talking about the underworld, you're talking about America. So we get it. Proserpine is a character of the Greek mythology who is forced to spend part of every year in the underworld. So every year she would take a trip to America. We talking about the Southern Crux. Let's see. The Southern Cross. It is one of the best known artisanals in the sky, most familiar with the star pattern of the southern hemisphere. The artisan is one of the easiest to identify in the sky. It has a significant number of cultures in southern latitudes, composed in the 5 star forming the shape of the cross. It is most distinctive feature of the constellation the Crux, a small constellation in the sky. The Southern Cross is notable for the containing 2 bright, a crux and Grocrux, which is at the point of the way of the southern constellation poles, that the five stars at the form of the Southern Cross are represented on the flags of Australia, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, the Samoas, and Brazil. The Southern Cross is also includes the national artisan of the Australia. Okay. The Southern Cross demonstrates the crux and constellation. It is often confused with the constellation itself, and it contains more than five stars. A star is from the cross of the asterism, and it moved on me. My bastard, and just the brightness of ones located in the constellation. The cross-shaped patterns can easily be seen from the southern latitudes at any time of the year. The observation in the tropical latitudes of the northern hemisphere can be seen in the near horizon in the winter or the spring, but only in a few hours of every night, shining in the southern sky. For bright stars portrayed in the left outer part of the image is represented in a useful orientation mark, which help identify the South's constellation poles because it's a rather distinctive asterism. The form of the stars have been officially classified as the crux in the constellation of the Southern Cross. The vast dark clouds are visible in the lower part of the image and is usually referred to as the Costa-Salaka, the New Nebula, the Cosac Nebula. It is also has its permanent role in the Australian Aboriginal culture, representing the head of the emu in the traditional constellation of the emu in the sky. The ruddy object glowing in the upper part of the image owes its color to the blades of the hydrogen gas of the cataloged as the IC 2948. This emission of the nebula hosts a sparkling cluster of young stars. The two brightest stars are the cross of the Alpha Crux and the Beta Crux, and among the brightest stars in the sky that is visible from the southern hemisphere, the Alpha Beta Delta Crux, and the co-moving members of the Scorpius Centaurus association with a young association of stars and constellations of Scorpius and Centaurus, to the class O and B of the common proper motion of the molecular cloud. So with this right here, man, I always like to say that the stars move like water. You know what I'm saying? I do believe the earth is fixed flat, fixed down. I don't believe it's flat. I don't believe it's fucking like you could look across this motherfucker. I believe it's not level, but I believe some parts are higher than other. But do I believe that all of it is around underneath the ass? No, I don't think so. But I also believe that the stars move in sort of a sway motion. And this sway motion, you know what I'm saying, predicates how people move, think, it's, I don't know, man. Let's leave that shit alone. I can't keep this stupid blunt lip to save my life. Shit pissing me off. Alright. The five stars in the Southern Cross are believed to be between 10 and 20 million years old. I'm gonna get too lost in this, but I really believe ash is one of the most flame retardant substances in the world. Like if you build a house out of ash, that bitch ain't gonna burn. Like if you can mix it in some in a brick, flame retardant. Alright, but that's just my idea. Okay, in fact, Australia, Brazil, Papua New Guinea, they ain't getting into it about it, but this is what they use for navigation. The Southern Cross is also found dedicated to the stone engraving in Machu Picchu. The Star of the Incas is known as the Chicana, meaning stare. The Chicana is just as lucky the archaeological geometric design, but it is the meaning of stairway to the highest. In the Inca culture, Chicana represents the three levels of life, each symbolized by the animal well known to Indian trilogy. The Indian people, the canvas of the earth, and the passage to the underworld. So now you get why I say the Chicana. Boom, we talking about the Southern Cross. We saw the Southern Cross. The Chicana is also known somewhere. You wonder what it means in Quichua. It means the stairway to heaven. And every May 3rd, the celebration of the rites is held in its honor. It's considered sacred to the original Indian communities. The Chicana is owed to the origins of the constellation formed about 50 stars, which is easily visible. The villageable of the southern hemisphere is known as the Crux de la Sor, the Southern Cross. It is also linked to the crops and even been used as a guide for sailors. So once again, it is believed that the elements within history is preceded the Incans having, so the Olmecs, the greater 4,000 years today, the the Aymara continued to preserve the 13-month lunar calendar, the 28 days in each month used by the ancestors. Day 365 is considered day zero, which is May 3rd, and the day which is the Southern Cross acquired by the astronomical forms of the perfect cross. According to the Andean cosmovision that the Chicana represents is everything is fulfilled in the coordinates of the continuity of the symbolized the relationship and everything in the latter and holds the man together with the cosmos. The Chicanos also represents the four dimensions necessary for life, the community's spiritual, social, political, and economic. The central lines represent the man, that is everything, the masculine. It is also corresponding to the creation, to the spirit, to its inheritance, to the succession, to the horizontal lines. For its part of the corresponding that created the matter, the Mama Pacha. When the two lines mark the levels of the man and the woman overlap and the horizontal over the vertical, the Chicana is formed. And the subdivision according heaven, earth, day, night, sun, moon, man, and woman. On the one hand, there is the sun, and that is for the Andean people the king star, and it is the object of worship and adoration and the engine of all life on earth. On the other hand, the moon, recesses of the stars, considering to the main goddess, consular to the guardian of women. This consideration of her a disease healer. Both the sun and the moon had their own sowing, harvest, and irrigation calendar. Under the sun and the moon star, Shakas and Kolar, a bright star, which is represented in the planet Venus. The planet Venus is always under something. Sacrifices, murder, war, all that shit. Just watch out when somebody talking about Venus. Between the sun and the moon became something. It was him and something with her. Under the moon in the afternoon star, Apache Orari that represents the Mars that was said to carry all the orders of the gods of the heaven were made. Then there is Camagradic, the stars called Huchu and Las Carabiles among the elements, such as rainbows or lightning. The Amaru, the Puma, which y'all see it, the Antisuyu, and then you got Kantisuyu, and Chinti Suyu, and Kolo Suyu. You should have Inti Suyu somewhere. Where's Inti Suyu? I guess that's probably what they consider in Kanti Suyu, but I was always told it was Inti Suyu. In the lower part of Pachamama on earth, and the place where the man lives is represented in the land of the Indian, and the living being in the all meant to the Snake River, the Amaru Maya, which symbolized the journey of the movement. Another river is represented in the Willachamaya, the sacred river, and the underground river that travels the being of the inner world of the Uju Pacha is symbolized in the spiritual journey of the inner search. In addition, with the symbolized appear such as the Apis, which is the angels of nature in the Indian cosmos, responsible for protecting human beings, and the feminine version of the Natas. The feminine spirit takes care of animals and planets the same way the eyes of the Yamemana, that's yeah, me Yamena, the Nachirakana, also appear to represent the inhabitants of the inner world, the Uju Pacha, just as man appear. You know, how dare I slide past all that and not put you all up on game. I'm sorry this is such a long video, y'all. You know, it's Yamanaya. Also, I'm gonna just call him the Mana. Rear Kucha, the eldest of the Creator's two sons, given that he is the firstborn and he is the higher status of the brother and is charged by his father with the task of walking through the highlands and naming each tree, plant, flower, fruit, and herb. And he goes and he teaches the local inhabitants which plant to eat and which ones to use for medicine and which ones to avoid because they are poisonous. Upon the reaching of the seed, he ascends to heaven. Manilia says the Yemenia. This sounds like Quetzalcoatl, that all things were placed in his power and the figures and the control of the planets and the regulation. It was situated in the sky, so I would identify him with the constellation Pleiades. Moreover, I would say that the circles in Pachu Chichu drawing represent the stars, eyes, and perhaps, although this is more speculative, but Antonio Borchia asserts that the dots of the zigzags and the dots of design symbolize the eyes of Yamanaya, represents he does not develop the idea further. As I mentioned above, I examined that the Aquipus and the Lilas that's recovered in the Esmeralda and carry this motif. In each case, the pattern is embedded in a thin band made up in the blocks of either red or yellow or black within the individual blocks and are 6 to 7 dots. In some instances, there are 6 to 7 sets of dots, which which what you would expect to design the elements really denote the stars and the Pleiades and six, which uh, readily be seen to the naked eye, while the seventh is harder to resolve, and one piece of the dots is grounded and set aside. And exploration, however, it does not dissolve the hypothesis that they represent the eyes of Yom and Not. So, we ain't about to get too lost all in the sauce. And also the elements such as calcula, that means the barns and the warehouse, according to the importance of the Indian people gave the planning and the storage of the Malaquis, which are the ancestors who lived next to existence in Hanapacha, and the Uju Pacha, and the tree which represents the tree of life, which represents life emerging from the earth and links the unities to the three worlds of Hanapacha and communicating parts of with the infinite beings of the underworld and the Kayapacha, which means man and his works, and the world will live in Uchapacha and the roots, which symbolize the roots of the underworld. There are also the symbols of Mama Kocha, the elements of water, which symbolize the relativity. So this also be Mama Wata, which all symbolize the relativity and eternal becoming of the last central symbols in the middle circle, which means uh, empathiness and non-knowledge, and the sacred, the center of the Chicana represents the ideal image of God. I always see that. And you'll see this with the swirl in the middle and the cross. Yeah, I normally see it like this. But that's the Southern Cross. This is where they got that solar pits and the bright stars. Okay. It says the famous Atlantis exists no longer, but and it hardly no doubt that it did once. And Marculius once wrote the Ethiopian affairs. We read all that. Okay. And the Atlantic Sea sacred to Procopius. Besides these three immense magnitude, the Plato, Jupiter, Neptune describe the inhabitants of the last island of Pos- Poseidon. Preserve the memory of the prodigious magnitude of the Atlantic islands are related by their ancestors, and it is governing many periods all the islands of the Atlantic Sea. With the Isles of what they passed over a large island beyond which is not far from the firm land near which is true sea, which is they talking about the Pacific Sea. So once you pass over the Atlantic Sea and you get through what we would call Peru, you're gonna get over to the true sea, which would be the Pacific, because they was trying to get over to Asia. You know what I mean? It's well noticed. It's just like all the Maya authors who have described the awful calamities that caused the submergence of the land of Mu. Procopius mentioned the existence of 10 countries in the island that Plato did, and can be mere coincidence, as well as an actual geological knowledge of the part of the writers. Inquiries have often made uh, to the causes that led to the interruption of the communication between the inhabitants of the western continents and the dwellers of the coast of the Mediterranean after they had been renewed by the Carthaginians. The evidence that the mud had spoken of the Egyptian priests had settled the course of the centuries that the seaweed mentioned in Americo had ceased to the barrier sufficient to impede the passage, since the Carthaginians had reached the shores of the Yucatan at least 500 years before the Christian era. This cause may have found the destruction of the Carthage, of its commerce and its ships by the Romans under the Plebeius Scipio, and the Romans never were navigators after the fall of Carthage. The public attention been directed to their conquest of northern Africa and the western Asia and Greece, to their wars with the Tutuish and the Cimbri, to their own civil decisions, and to the many other political events preceded the descendants of the disintegration of the Rome and the Empire, the maritime expeditions of the Phoenicians and the Carthaginians, and the discoveries of a distinct transatlantic uh, countries became well nigh forgotten, and other hands, there were hardly navigators kept the discoveries as a secret as possible. So, like I said, the Moors kept it a secret up until they got their backs pushed against the wall. And once they got their backs pushed against the wall, they was like, "Hey, white boy, don't want my ass no more. You know what I'm going to tell you about? Let me tell you about the land of milk and honey. Take your foot out of my ass. 1 second. 1 second. Take your foot out of my ass so I can tell you about this story. I know I was torturing them chambers back in the day and all that, but I got something that's gonna make you rich. Me and you rich. You know what I'm saying? All you gotta do is go over there and beat these niggas. You feel me? Just ride with me. Get in the boat. Just ride with me. So you got these boss people who tell them to get in the boat, and they tell them just slide with a nigga. You feel me? So this is what it is. You feel me? So keep up. You know what I'm saying? I want to leave. Get in the back of the car. We ride. With the advent, incinerated the Christian church that remembers the existence of such a land that still lingered among the students, that the Egyptians and the Greek civilizations were utterly obliterated from the mind of the people. And if it were believed that the Tertullian and the ecclesiastical writers of the Christian during the first centuries of the Christian era uh, held the aberrance of all arts and science, which, like literature, attributed to the muses, and therefore regarded as artifacts of the devil, and consequently destroyed all the vestiges of the well as all means of culture. They closed the academies of Athens, the schools of Alexandria, burned the libraries and of uh, the Sephardic, and the temples of learning, which contained the works and the philosophers and the records. So you can see they was going through destroying all this black people knowledge, all this great Moorish bullshit, and you know what I'm saying? I hate to use that stupid word. We're gonna use Algonquin knowledge. You know what I'm saying? Let's kick that word off the table because it don't mean jack shit. This is all Algonquin. Shout out to them Algonquin. Shout out to them Mayans. Shout out to them big boy Caribs. We've been on them. As you can see, you know what I'm saying? We unfolding this. They can't really fuck with your boy. Listen, pause real quick.